So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Valerie Morris, and I'm the Public Information Officer for Snyder ISD. And I want to welcome Mr. Rush, who is the principal of Snyder Junior High. And we're going to be answering all your questions. We've had some that have been submitted already. And if you have anything during the webinar, please ask, and we will do our best to answer them for you today. So we'll go ahead and get started. We've just wrapped up the second 6 weeks of school, if you can believe it. How are things going at Snyder Junior High School, Mr. Rush?
Oh, busy as always. Just a lot of things going on, getting report cards out. Those should be headed home either today or tomorrow. Had a few little things that we're making sure we get out to everybody here pretty quick.
Okay. Well, I can't believe it. This year seems to be flying by, which I guess is a good thing.
And that's about normal for my world. It goes faster every year.
Absolutely. So report cards obviously are going to bring up questions about grades, and we've had several questions submitted about that. Can you tell me a little bit about grades? How often are they entered? Where are grades entered? Because I know we have two different systems with Skyward and Schoology. How can parents get a good idea of how their kids are doing?
So our teachers are expected to enter a minimum of 2 grades per every week into their grade book, so that we are constantly updating and keeping where all of our students are going and tracking all of that. But teachers always enter their grades first into Schoology, and then they sync them into Skyward after that. Skyward is the official grade book of Snyder ISD. Therefore, the grade that is in Skyward is going to be the actual reflection of what your student is actually scoring. So that is the main one that we need to be looking at, is what is in Skyward.
Okay. I know as a parent myself, I use both. And if I'm wanting to know what my child has been assigned during school, then I look at Schoology. For example, if he's absent one day, I'll say, pull up Schoology. Let's look and see what you have as far as assignments. So that's where everything is posted for the most part. And then once that work is completed, the grade is entered into Skyward, correct?
Yes, the teacher will first enter that grade over into their Schoology, and then they will sync it into Skyward.
Okay. Well, and that's something that came out of COVID, is the online learning management system, which is Schoology. And because teachers have built so much of their schoolwork in there, with the exception of Snyder Junior High. Now, y'all put it together right before school started because Snyder Junior High used Google Classroom this year. But part of the goal was to make sure that we streamlined everything as best as possible. And therefore, that's why we have Schoology being used this year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I know as a parent, I've got kids on multiple campuses, and I'm getting used to it from a parent perspective. So as far as support, when these report cards come out, hopefully there are no surprises, because hopefully you've been able to go in and check Schoology and check Skyward, and you've been communicating with the teachers. But let's say that parents get the report card in and they feel like their student didn't do as well as they're capable of doing. How can a parent help their student?
Well, first thing is always encourage parents to go ahead and reach back out to that teacher. Quick phone call conversation is always eye-opening and gives information to both the parent and the teacher about things from both ends that no one sometimes get to see what's going on. But together they can typically make the plan, develop what they need to help the student with, and address any concerns that way to end up being successful. Our teachers have been informed that, hey, if you get that email, you get that phone call, we want you to make contact back with that parent within 24 hours. So if for some reason you're not getting that contact back, reach out to the administration, let us know so that we can help you plan through that, work through that. So really, that's where our basic plan works through on that.
So first step is always reach out to the teacher. let them know what's going on or what your concerns are, get some insight about what's actually going on in class. And then if you don't hear back from the teacher, reach out to the school. Now, what is the school doing to help students that are struggling? Hopefully, before report cards come out, what opportunities are there for students?
So yes, we've got lots of things going on and lots of opportunities to go ahead and supply that extra support and help. So all of our teachers offering tutoring at least 2 days a week after school. Typically, all you've got to do is reach out to that teacher and say, hey, when are the tutoring times? I need my child to have some extra support with some things. And they are been very good about making sure that those are posted on Schoology and other places so that we can support students and get that extra help where it's needed. So that's going to be the first thing. The second thing that we do is we do have our win period, which is really defined as what I need. So during that period, all of our students have at least one win period. And during that time, what happens is we focus on a math and English at least once per week. But also teachers are asked to make sure that those students have built-in time at least one day a week for their own tutorials. So that students might have questions with or need help with so that we can support them actually during the school day without them having to stay after school. During that win period, we also do work on some SEL skills, some social emotional learning along the way, because that is a big thing that is being pushed and asked for, especially whenever I end up talking with different companies about, hey, what do we need kids to know whenever they come out of high school?
Absolutely. That social emotional component is so important and sometimes overlooked, but I am proud of Snyder ISD and the emphasis they're placing on that, because it is definitely important for our students. So if your student's struggling, the first thing to ask them, because as they're getting into junior high, I think it's important for those kids to take ownership as well, is do you know when tutoring is? Have you reached out to your teacher? Of course, the parent can reach out to the teacher as well. But I would also ask them what they're doing during their win period. Are they taking advantage of that and getting help if they're struggling in something? Or are they doing their work that maybe they're behind on? That can be a little eye-opening as well sometimes, that to your student, that they know that you have time during the day, that they have time during the day to catch up on some of those assignments that maybe they might be lacking. So I would encourage you as a parent to ask them those questions. So the next question is about map testing. Tell me about map testing and how it's used in the junior high, and how can parents find out how their student is doing on those tests?
So toward the end of the first 6 weeks, we'd already sent out what students actually did on their map testing. We shared those scores directly with parents via mail. So you may have gotten them, they may have gotten mixed up, but we really use those test scores to help inform us where a student's at, how they're growing, what specific spots they are challenged in, so that whenever we do create our lesson plans, we can help address those areas before they become too much. So the earlier, if we can build those things into our classrooms, it really does allow for a better communication back and forth for everybody. Those family reports that we did share, basically, they're also a thing that the parents can look at and say, hey, is my child on track? Are they doing what they need to? Are they growing? You will see those comparisons from how others across the nation have done whenever you do get to look at that report. And so that's always a flag to me. If we're not up in that orange area at the least, then is our student actually doing what they need to do, or are they off task? So we can have those discussions so that we can continue to build in what the student actually needs and get them the help and support.
That's great. And I want to encourage you too, for we've had new folks jump onto the call. So if you have a question, please use that Q&A feature at the bottom and submit your question. We'll do our best to answer it live. So we want to hear from you and know what you would like to know about as well. So as far as the MAP scores, and let me clarify, because I've had some parents think that we're saying math. We're saying MAP, M-A-P, which stands for Measures of Academic Progress. And that really helps us, as Mr. Rush said, get an idea of how the student's doing and then tailor the instruction catered to wherever those students may have gaps, or there's opportunities for acceleration as well, or enrichment. It is very enlightening from what I'm told from our teachers and administrators as well. So what if a parent didn't get their MAP score in the mail? What should they do?
It's a quick reach out to either Ms. Maben or to Ms. Ariano, two of the assistant principals, and they follow along very strongly. Ms. Maben does a lot of our English stuff. Ms. Ariano does a lot of our math oversight. And if you need help interpreting those scores, those are the two people who to reach out to as well. Because if you get and you're going, hey, I'm not exactly sure what this says, they are capable of walking you through what everything is in that report can help you with.
Okay. That sounds great. And this is the second year, I believe, that Snyder ISD has used MAP testing. So we're accumulating good data to be able to see how our students are doing and what we can do better as a district and as a school to help students.
Yes, and that's really the big key, is that this is not something that just follows. The MAP testing is not something just goes 1 year and then, oh, this really follows them, and it's designed to show where a student is growing. So we can follow them from one school to the next school, and we can always look back and go, are they growing? Are they just guessing at things? And how do we help support them in their journey academically?
Absolutely. It's nice as a parent too, to be able to look at year to year and see how your child is doing. So I always save those and look back at how they're progressing. So let's move into UIL, eligibility, sports, extracurricular activities. That's the fun part of junior high that's different than intermediate school. Can you tell me a little bit about what is no pass, no play? Because that hopefully isn't affecting too many kids, but it may be affecting some after this 6 weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, it affects students all the time, everywhere, and not everyone completely understands that. So as an ex-coach, basically no pass, no play is a UIL rule. We have no control over it whatsoever, other than we must follow it. So basically, if a student fails any class, it doesn't matter, any one class for the 6 weeks period, they become ineligible. Now, a student can regain eligibility after 3 weeks. So they have to sit a minimum of 3 weeks. But if they are still failing at their progress report, they remain ineligible for the entire 6 weeks. But if a student passes every single class at 3 weeks, they can regain their eligibility. Now, a lot of people get confused on how that works, because our last day of grading was actually last Friday. Students don't lose eligibility until this Friday, because we have to give our teachers a week to get all of their grades finalized and make sure that everything is taken care of there. So some students will lose their eligibility Friday at 3:48, basically. It's just the end of our school day. They will have the chance 3 weeks from then to have regained it if they're doing all of their work. So no pass, no play is directly all UIL. So that's any of our athletics, if our choir's doing UIL, if our theater's doing UIL, anything that's UIL related. it is possible that other things can follow that same rule. Basically, non-UIL can say, hey, we're not going to follow that, or they can say, we're going to follow that. We encourage our staff to follow that, actually, because number one is for consistency, but number two, it's also going to help encourage our kids to take care of their business within inside of their classroom. So you will find that most of our non-UIL, they do have their own little handbooks, and inside their rules and policies, they say, hey, you have to be passing if you're going to get to participate. So if you want to make sure for your child if that affects them or not, and they're in a non-UIL thing, then reach out to that sponsor and say, hey, is this going to affect them? And they will be able to share that information with you.
Absolutely. And that's one of the great things about electives and sports is that it is a great incentive for your child to do well in their classes so they can continue to participate. And then also you have another set of eyes that are there helping your students, because I know those coaches are on top of it as well, and the UIL sponsors and things like that to make sure their students are doing well so they can participate.
They definitely do. And our coaches even have gone so far as to set up extra tutorial times as well, because they want to make sure that those kiddos are available and are ready to go. So they have set some of those tutorial times up as well to make sure that our students are progressing.
Right. And if your student is not a sports kid, there are so many activities that they can get involved in the junior high setting. And then also all the way up into Snyder High School, the opportunities continue to open up. So I would encourage you, if your child is not involved in something or they saying they don't want to be involved, contact the school and find out what all is out there, because there is likely something that will interest them and could be a good motivator for them to continue to do well in school and make it fun.
Definitely. And, whenever you say that also, we just ended up last Thursday with our rewards day for our kids who do have great behavior, have everything going on. This Saturday night, our PTO is going to sponsor a glow in the dark dance up here at the junior high from 6 to 8. We are allowing everyone who's available to come to that, but it's always a great motivator for parents to, hey, I've been double checking on you. Hey, and you've been doing well. We're going to let you go to this. So we do have that big fundraiser event coming up as well, and we try throughout the year to do some of those free dress days, to do these reward days to help encourage students to be on time to class, be in attendance in school, follow our expectations. And typically whenever you're doing all of those things, amazingly, grades take care of themselves.
That's true. Well, so we've talked about some of these events. These events have been publicized on our Snyder ISD, our Snyder Junior High Facebook page, as well as put out on Parent Square. So be sure to be checking those regularly to keep up to date on when those events are happening, because we want your child to be able to participate, which kind of brings us to our next topic, which is communication. So what is the best way to get a hold of your child's teacher?
So yeah, most of our teachers are on Parent Square and they're sending messages regularly. That is probably the easiest way to get back to a teacher, is to send them a message through Parent Square. If you're not already on Parent Square, emails work really well as well. You can get a hold of them pretty quickly that way. And the last way is if you'll just call the junior high office, one of our ladies, they will go ahead and contact you, typically to the teacher's voicemail, because typically they're in class whenever you call. That allows you to leave a message. And like I said earlier, we tell them, hey, I need you to get back in contact with that teacher, that parent, whenever you get that message within 24 hours. So I ask that you give them that grace, because when they got your message, their conference may have already passed for the day, and it's probably the next day during that conference time that you'll get to hear from them. So we do expect that. And then, of course, if you're still not hearing back from them, that's when you reach out to the administration and say, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of so-and-so. Can you help me out? And typically we can go find out what's going on. Sometimes they were out for a day because unfortunately teachers get sick too, just like kiddos. And sometimes with our coaches, they had to go travel to a game or something. So they may have had to leave early because, well, like Friday night, Pecos is a long way away. But they're coming to us this year. So that actually helps out with us.
That's true. And if you have any trouble with Parent Square, please reach out to the campus. You can also call the administration office. I'd be glad to help you with that if you're having any difficulties. We are trying to send out all of our academic, school-related information that might have gone home on a piece of paper in the past that maybe sat at the bottom of a backpack for a few weeks. I know I've had that happen with my own kids. And so that's delivered directly to you in whatever way you set up, whether you want an email, through the app, a text. I actually have all three because I don't want to miss anything. And that way you are always in the loop. In our Facebook and our Instagram pages, we are updating with all the fun stuff as far as pictures and recap and things like that of events that we have. Because the algorithms on Facebook, you may not always get those in a timely manner. So that is why we're not posting some of that time sensitive information there on Facebook. We're sending it to you through Parent Square. So I encourage you to check that regularly. I also do post some things that don't necessarily have a notification, that aren't incredibly time sensitive, that might be just for fun, like our community pep rally and things like that. So scroll through there. It's set up kind of like Facebook. So if you're familiar with using any of those platforms, it should be very comfortable for you. So anything else that you want to add, Mr. Rush? And we have just a few minutes. If there's any other parents that want to ask a question, now's the time to submit that.
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody for joining us. And in case you didn't know, you can access this webinar is being recorded, and we will post that in the next couple of hours on our website, snyderisd.net. And you can go to the Families and Students tab, look down for Q&A recordings, and you'll see that there. You can watch this. You can watch videos on how to check your child's grades in Schoology, how to use Skyward. We have some recordings from last year about mental health and support, which we're going to have another one of those this year as well. There's all sorts of information. So all of them, we keep them to 30 minutes or less. And the great thing with the recording, you can fast forward through it if you need to as well. And you can always stay up to date on what we're putting out there. Another thing I want to mention is that not next week, but the Tuesday after. So that's the 16th, we're going to have a safety and security Q&A with David Tate from the high school and Officer Latham, our resource officer. We're going to be talking about safety and security throughout the district. So if you have any questions that you'd like to submit, please email me at questions@snyderisd.net. We'll answer everything as best we can. There's obviously some security protocols that we do not release for our own safety and your student safety. But those are things that we do just to keep everyone safe. So we'll be glad to answer your questions there as well. So if we don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and let everyone go. And thank you, Mr. Rush, for joining us. We also have very efficient lighting systems as well.
Yes.
To save on electricity that sometimes go dark if you don't move very often, right?
Well, it hasn't happened in a long time in this office, so
I can't imagine that it does for you.
yeah.
Mr. Rush doesn't sit still for very long. If you don't know that, he is always out and about and in classrooms and in the hallways. And we appreciate everything that you're doing for our district and for our students, Mr. Rush. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes. Bye-bye.